Mr. Crowley, what went on in your head? Oh, Mr. Crowley, did you talk to the dead? Your lifestyle to me seems so tragic, with the thrill of it all.
Good tidings, my beloved truth seekers. This is Coffee, Cigarettes, and Gnosis, where we don't take prisoners but liberate them. This is your life. Don't play hard to get. This is your eternal dark odyssey through the gnashing rocks of orthodoxy. This is your revolution to awaken the God within you and make sure Hypatia makes it home this time. This is your incessant exploration of the world's favorite and least known heretics, the Gnostics and their brethren in the Esoterica.
No more tricks. No more lies. Only truth.
So on this February 18th, 2007, light up your cigarettes, cigars, or bowls. Light up some incense if you have to. I hear sage is really good for cleaning up spirits in your room. And make sure you got fuel in your cup because coffee is for closers and we're gonna burn. One way or another, we're gonna burn. So set the controls for the heart of the sun.
What's going to happen?
Something wonderful.
My name is still Miguel Connor, otherwise known as your host Abraxas, the terrible god above God as the ancients knew him. And we are the Gnostics. We are the ones who finally accepted we don't belong in any era or time. We tried to wear so many disguises in the past. We've been obedient Orthodox sheep, New Age buccaneers, secular detectives. We've been through quicksilver mystical experiences, great loves and fortunes in life. We've had rebirth into golems that won't make the same mistakes again, and all sort of other incarnations. And each time we said, this is it. This is the path that will have no bumps on the road. This is the golden egg that will leave me strong and lucky for the rest of my life. This is where I no longer walk alone. This is it.
Your whole life is just a dream.
But we were wrong each time. We were very, very wrong. At least those of us who didn't sink into the quicksand of denial. We eventually accepted that sooner or later, the universe would hit us in the face with a frying pan as we turned a certain corner. Or worse, that in the end, despite our promises, successes, and bittersweet symphonies, the universe just doesn't care about us. Tragedy and victory make for great ratings, but are hollow symbols in the void of the Kanoma, the cosmos we now reside in. We are homeless and always will be.
We stand between the candle and the star, between the darkness and the light.
And thus we chose Gnosis, the divine self-knowledge of the untamed heart, as a way to finally break out of the border of the Ouroboros, that snake that eats its own tail and keeps us trapped in the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, inside and outside of our mortal lives. We are tired of dying day by day, of being slowly drained of our light through the straws of the angelic mafia.
I have no bird, I have no bush. God has taken my bird and my bush.
We want both death and resurrection in this lifetime. We want out of the cosmic game by communing with a deeper, permanent reality. We want that pearl that the snake stole from us when we descended into the material world and forgot our divine inheritance, just like the prince in the Gnostic hymn of the pearl.
We're the middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no great war, no great depression. Our great war is a spiritual war. Our great depression is our lives.
And we often talk about that two of the keys of obtaining Gnosis, just like the classic Gnostics did, was to write your own gospel and live your own myth. Today we talk about someone who did both, and has become perhaps the most popular occult figure of our days. And that is the beast himself, Aleister Crowley.
Do not be too eager to deal out death and judgment. Even the very wise cannot see all ends.
Our guest today, who illumes Crowley and does a superb job of separating the fable from the man, is Milo Duquette, author of The Magick of Aleister Crowley, The Key to Solomon's Key, Secrets of Magick and Masonry, and the upcoming Accidental Christ. He is an unavowed Thelemite and all-around nice guy. No hidden horns and no children's sacrifices here, my Orthodox brothers and sisters.
No, he was crying over spilt magic.
For information on his other ventures, and he has plenty of them, including seminars, workshops, and DVDs, please visit his website, lonmiloduquette.com. LONMILODUQUETTE.com. The interview is on the way that will answer many questions for those of you who can't make heads or tails of Crowley. But first, a little of my drivel.
Just admit you're stupid and don't know what you're talking about.
Say what you want about him, and everyone seems to have an opinion in the districts of the esoterica. But Crowley, in the beginning and end, was just like any magician, mystic, or prophet in history. He was trying to find a greater truth and a way back to our supernal home. The details of his life are but the myth he wore, and his occult breakthroughs are but the gospel he wrote. Personally, I have never practiced ceremonial magic and certainly not sex magic, although I keep getting accused of it on message boards. Maybe because of my moniker.
I work for Kaiser Soze.
But if there is anyone out there who would like to tutor me on sex magic, I'm all testosterone. I'm just kidding. Yeah, really. I'm just kidding. I personally believe that magic, true magic, is when your spirit, your camouflaged spark of divine light, touches the shores of the Pleroma, that event horizon of Gnosis, the liberating knowledge of who you really are underneath the muck of your ego. Then all is one and one is all, and you rise above creation until it seems like a city at night from the view of an airplane, bright yet with all its predatory stalls.
We are star stuff. We are the universe, made manifest, trying to figure itself out.
And then you can just lean back in your seat and enjoy the altitude. Dion Fortune wrote a book called The Mystical Kabbalah, and she also adopted much of her ideas from Crowley. She said that the purpose of magic is to eventually not use magic. The magic is within your soul, as it always has been, and it is like a phoenix who this time will not burn to ash but rise to the bliss of transcendental enlightenment.
I have been to the dark side. I have seen a world that no man should see.
Really, for most people, it was a rather pleasant experience.
My favorite quote by Crowley was that we are all stars. This is something that Plato said in the Timaeus, and Jesus says in the Gospel of Judas. And if we can access our solar furnace by understanding our godly solitude in this universe, separate but in harmony, we light up the firmament of the darkness that knows us not but detests us anyway. We are all stars, my beloved truth seekers.
My God, it's full of stars.
Of course, most in the esoteric know of his famous line, "Do what thou wilt, and that shall be the whole of the law." Oddly enough, Augustine centuries ago simply said, "Love and do what thou wilt." Interesting connection, if you ask me. And lastly, it must be noted that Crowley was perhaps the first and only European writer who truly supported C.G. Jung when this other magician came out with his ideas. Crowley simply said that this new science of psychology, this diving into the endless depths of the ocean of the subconscious, was something that shamans and magicians had already been doing for thousands of years. It's a pity that modern psychology is, as one person called it, just cleaning the bars of the cage.
Son, we live in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by...
But let us hope that with the publication of Jung's Red Book, which he based only 10% of his ideas on, there might be another Jung revival just as Crowley has been enjoying one for the last few decades. And that's basically the end of my drivel, my beloved truth seekers. Let us take that magical mystery tour with someone who indeed understands the beast, thelema, and sex magic. No, not the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but Lon Milo Duquette. I know you'll enjoy his acumen. But first, a word from our sponsors, our new sponsors, the Roman Catholic Church in conjunction with First Baptist Church of Dallas.
First, there was a dream. Now, there is reality. Here, in the untainted cradle of the heavens, will be created a new super race, a race of perfect physical specimens. You have been selected as its progenitors. Like gods, your offspring will return to Earth and shape it in their image. You have all served in humble capacities in my terrestrial empire. Your seed, like yourselves, will pay deference to the ultimate dynasty which I alone have created. From their first day on Earth, they will be able to look up and know that there is law and order in the heavens.
Okay, Lon, is it possible for you to give us a brief thumbnail of Aleister Crowley's life?
Well, as a matter of fact, no, it's not. It's not possible. But,
such a legendary figure, unique.
Yes, it's not really a thumbnail sketch, but maybe beaks and talons.
There you go.
Basically, Aleister Crowley was one of the most influential occultists and magicians of the 20th century. He was a writer, a poet, a mountain climber. Several of his mountain climbing records still hold. Very, very interesting and eccentric fellow, and probably one of the most controversial holy men, of all time. But Aleister Crowley was born in 1875 in England. He was the son of two very, very conservative fundamentalist Protestant Christians. And he was raised in that environment. His parents were wealthy, and he was raised in a certain level of privilege. He rebelled pretty early on against the restrictions of Orthodox. I can't even call it Orthodox Christianity. The sect that his parents belonged to were really the innovators of what we would now call the evangelical movement. They were Darbyites, members of the Plymouth Brethren. But anyway, Crowley became interested in mysticism, all things magical and such, while attending Cambridge University, and it sort of freed him. He became what we would call a libertine, a very liberated and rebellious fellow. Around 1898, he joined the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and really found that he resonated very well to their type of hermetic magic and such. He joined at a time that the Golden Dawn was having a lot of troubles, and would eventually close down. But Crowley's interest in magic stayed on, and around 1904 he had a revelation. He had a mystical experience in Cairo, Egypt.
That's the one with his girlfriend, right?
It was his wife, actually, at the time. And maybe we'll talk more about that in detail a little later. But just as a thumbnail sketch of Crowley, he had this epiphany, this realization in Cairo around 1904, where he, at least in his mind, saw that the magical formula of the age had changed, that human consciousness had reached sort of another level, and it was ready for a new revelation, a new sort of truth. He saw this as the changing of the age, and from that moment forward, Crowley's magic took on a new dimension, and he was a proponent of what he called thelema, which means will in Greek. And he more or less took the basic magical formula of the previous age as perfected and crystallized by the Golden Dawn, and tweaked those techniques and those magical formula just a little bit to correspond and harmonize with what he thought was this New Age magical formula. Crowley was a very eccentric person. He liked to freak people out. He was sort of an eccentric individual that loved to freak out people who were capable of being freaked out. And this has left we future Thelemites with the sad task of having to defend all of Crowley's weird behaviors and writings that are veiled in what at first glance appears to be incredibly dark and satanic and scary writings and such, and it leaves us with the duty of saying, no, you sort of have to look a little deeper into this to see what he was really talking about and such. But he was, if he would have been born even 50 years later, he wouldn't have been considered such a wild and dark and controversial character. But, people like Tim Leary and even the early, behavior of Ram Dass and other modern modern people, if Crowley would have been born in their time, it would have been a lot different concerning his reputation.
Can we talk about some of the myths? Obviously, he wasn't satanic. I think we know, or most people who are into the esoteric are there. And the name the B66, wasn't that given to him by his mother and it just stuck?
Yeah, there's more to it than that. But yes, his mother, when he was naughty, would say, "Oh, you're the B666," and so that sort of stuck with him, and he always wanted to be the B666, if that's what that's about. But he found wonderful Kabbalistic significance to the number 666, and so he embraced it in a way that was more than just sort of a tongue-in-cheek practical joke. And I think here is where we can sort of make clear why people who are sort of programmed with Orthodox Christianity would consider Crowley satanic. And let me try to make this as simple as possible. The book of the Revelation of John has programmed Western civilization into this view of the end of the world, the end of the age.
Right.
And no matter what the original intent of the author of the book of the Revelation, no matter what the original intent was, it has become hardwired into the psyche of Western Christendom as this apocalyptic end of the world, horrible events, that will happen. So it may have been originally, who knows, a Kabbalistic laundry list or something that we've just interpreted.
That's what I've always thought.
So, I have my theories of what it really was intended to be, but we're stuck with what it has become. And it has become in Western civilization really, really embedded in our psyches. So Crowley considered that the age has changed, that old age of Christianity, I guess, the Osirian age, in Crowley's way of looking at things, really did come to an end around 1904. The age has really changed. The events that the book of John was describing in metaphoric imagery actually did happen, and the new age has come.
The Age of Horus, right?
The Age of Horus, right. But we have to realize that the end of one age seems catastrophic when you belong to that age, but it's a wonderful new beginning for the people in the new age. Does that make sense?
Are you talking about the people who are prepared for the new age, who are awakened by it?
Exactly.
Okay.
So what Crowley was doing with his writing, because Crowley was so programmed with this imagery of the book of the Revelation, that he used the same terms, the same characters, the same concepts that were outlined in the book of John, the Revelation of John, but he was using it for a new, improved version of it. So it's like we can't blame John for being terrified about the events surrounding the end of the age of his precious Savior. It would appear to John, 2,000 years ago, that this is a terrible, catastrophic end of the age that he was just seeing the beginning of. We can't expect John to be objective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
So Crowley was seeing what was frightening John. He was seen as anything but frightening. So all of a sudden, John saw the beast 666, and he saw the various beasts and the characters and the Whore of Babylon and all of that. He was seeing that 2,000 years ago as a horrible, horrible thing. It's not a horrible thing to the people of the new age, the age that's coming. So Crowley just went ahead and hijacked those very terms, those terms that Western civilization has already become familiar with, to describe the dynamics of the new changing age. And it does take a bit of initiated maturity to cut through those old definitions of those terms in order to see the wonderful new dimensions of those terms. And it's almost like a test. Many years ago in California, there was a potato chip company called Granny Goose, and their television ads said, "Are you man enough for Granny Goose?" Okay. In a way, that's what Crowley was doing. He's saying, I'm describing the spiritual mechanism of this leap in human consciousness, this beginning of a new age, and I'm doing it with the images and the words, the nomenclature, the terms that could freak you out, that could make you afraid. They're the old terms. Are you man enough for Granny Goose? Are you mature enough? Are you grown up enough to get past these provocative terms to see the truth that lies just beneath them? And in a way, that was sort of his, a test. Now, are you spiritually grown up enough to actually look at this stuff and see what he's really talking about? I don't know if he set out to do that, but that's what we're left with. And so people that are interested in Crowley, interested in Thelema, have to put aside or overcome fear in order to get at the truth. It's almost like if you can't find the light in the darkness, then you'll never be able to find the light.
Well, that's very Gnostic in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's perfectly, sublimely Gnostic. Yeah.
Before we move on to more of Thelema, what about this story that he was accused of being an anti-Semite because he believed that the Eastern European Jews were sacrificing babies? Is there any foundation in this?
No, only to use that as a traditional belief system of Europe. The thing that document that phraseology occurs in is one that is not pointing out something that was historically taking place, but to illustrate the dynamics of a certain technique of sexual magic. And when Crowley talked about different aspects of sex magic, he used the imagery of blood sacrifice, because in the days that he was writing this stuff, it was illegal to talk about things of a sexual nature unless it was patently medical. But it wasn't illegal to talk about human sacrifice and blood sacrifice, and the imagery and the different elements of sacrifice like that fitted easily into thinly veiled things to discuss sexual magic.
Well, it hasn't changed that much, Lon. We still
really
you can have violent films, but you can't have sex.
I know it. But as far as him being an anti-Semite, just from a sociological point of view, Crowley was, an upper middle class or almost aristocratic Englishman of the Edwardian age, and a certain level of what we would call today definitely politically incorrect attitudes toward race and such. He carried with him the prejudices and the biases of his class, and I'm in no way, shape, or form saying that Crowley would have fit comfortably in the 21st century political correctness, but from a magical, spiritual point of view, Crowley did not consider any races inferior, or his spiritual view of humanity as a whole certainly wouldn't fit into that context at all. But he was an Edwardian Brit, and he probably would offend people at the dinner table today.
He was just a product of his own age. He had to be.
Right.
And can we talk more about Thelema? Because I read your book and enjoyed it a lot, but like obviously in Gnosticism, we have the culmination is Gnosis, and the Isis, Prajna, or Enlightenment, or Satori. I guess the Christians would call it salvation. What is the culmination of Thelema?
Well, in the final analysis, it is a completely individual matter. We could say, the end product of Thelema is spiritual liberation, return to Godhead, all of that, and that would be true up to a point. But the thing with Thelema is that it is entirely individual in nature. We can't neatly categorize what complete illumination is and say you have to achieve that and you have to achieve that this way. The uniqueness of Thelema is not in the goal. The goal is the same as it's always been in the spiritual sciences. It's the path that is different in Thelema, and the path of Thelema is one of entirely individual in nature. So it's nobody's business to tell you how to gain enlightenment or what the nature of that enlightenment will be. There's fingers, there's arrows that can point in directions, but ultimately you're in your own Idaho.
Right. It's kind of like, it reminds me of Zen, where they tell you don't have a goal, or else you become attached to that goal and you ruin the whole thing.
Yes, and and at the risk of crystallizing Thelemic orthodoxy, which I will never do, but in Lon Duquette's personal view of Thelema to me is new, improved Western Zen. Okay, because if I'm going to compare it to anything that I already have kind of an idea of what it is. That's the first thing I tell people. I said, you know what Zen is about? And well, Thelema is sort of Western Zen.
Right. I remember Tobias Churton in one of his books said that if Crowley had simply stayed in the East and continued with his work, he'd probably been worshipped as a god because his ideology just fit better in the East.
He hit the mark on that one. Yeah.
How did he come about with sex magic? What is the sexual, the sexual part? What's the use in that?
Well,
I guess in Gnosticism it's the bridal chamber, but you're supposed to take it allegorically.
Right. Well, Crowley was incredibly active sexually. I guess we could say he was omnisexual because, well, he'd tackle a tree, if he thought that there was something to be learned from it, and he'd take good notes. So he was always had a great deal of sexual energy and such. He sort of reminds me of what I hear about other creative geniuses like Richard Wagner and such. They were just constantly exploding with sexual energy, and their art was an outlet for all of this energy. So Crowley was always a sexual creature for sure. And the magic of the Golden Dawn and other things that he was exposed to in his early years were sort of avoided that end of things. As a matter of fact, the head of the Golden Dawn, MacGregor Mathers, and his wife Moynia were said to have been a celibate couple. So sex was, if it was a part of the Golden Dawn system, it was really, really under the surface, and people explored on their own. Crowley had written a book called The Book of Lies. And the Book of Lies, he called it that because, anything, by the time you get something thought of and written down, it's already untrue,
Right, it loses its psychic power.
Right. But he wrote this, I guess around 1913. And it was a curious little book, and had a couple rituals in it. Every page was a chapter. Little poetry, little ritual, little sort of Zen koan-y kind of things. But as he was writing it, or at least this is what he says in his confessions, as he was writing this, there was one chapter that it was difficult for him to write, and he didn't know kind of why he wrote it, and then he took it out, and then he put it back in, and took it out, put it back in. Finally, he says he put it back in the manuscript just before it was published. He said he did it just to show contempt for his readers. but a while after the book got published, there was a knock on his door, and it was a man named Theodor Reuss, who was currently the head of the organization called Ordo Templi Orientis, which was a German sort of quasi-Masonic magical order that had in its highest degrees, certain teachings on sexual magic. I think the reason that it was so easily compatible with the Freemason connection was that in the OTO you had to be just kind of a regular Freemason and a Freemason of a certain high degree before they would open up these OTO secrets to you. So it's almost like we have to know you for 20 years. We have to know you. Don't tell this stuff to your wife or publish it. If you can keep a secret, you can have this information, because you could get yourself arrested.
Back then, yeah.
Yeah. So Theodor Reuss said, and Crowley was an honorary member of the OTO, and that's kind of a long story, but that just concerned them sending him a letter saying, "We like you. You're an honorary this," But Reuss after he introduced himself and such, said, you've published our supreme sexual magic in this little book, the Book of Lies, and Crowley said, no, I don't think I've done that. I don't even know what your secret is. And Roy said, well, here it is, and he takes the book out of Crowley's library, and he opens it up to a certain page, and he says, there it is. And then Crowley sees this chapter that he had so much trouble with, and he says, is that it? And he says, yeah. He says, well, what does it mean? I don't get it. And so Royce said, well, this is what it means. And in so many words, Royce described what the secret is. Well, like with all true magical secrets, it's something you really can't describe in words. It takes a level of illumination, of personal illumination, to understand the inner profundity of the secret. So, I could tell you the secret in 3 or 4 well-chosen words, but I wouldn't really be telling you the secret.
Right. There wouldn't be any gnosis.
Right.
And what about the Gnostic Mass? How did he put that together in pre-Nag Hammadi libraries? Did he hit on some things?
Well, the use of the term Gnostic when talking about Crowley's Gnostic Mass is really, really generic, and I mean generic with a capital G when it comes to Gnostic. There may have the use of certain Gnostic words, and the Iao is a very big thing in the Gnostic Mass. But for the most part, and this is why very traditional Gnostics look at the Gnostic Mass and go, "Whoa, that's not a Gnostic Mass," and boy, that's not Gnostic. It's really Crowley, and it's really Crowley, and it's Gnostic from the very generic point of view. But if you're really going to start digging historically for good technical Gnostic recreation rituals, the Gnostic Mass, Crowley's Gnostic Mass isn't where to look,
Yeah, because I remember I attended a Gnostic church here for a while, and they would always tell those initiated in minor orders or priests, you can go to Catholic Mass, but you cannot go to a Crowley Mass.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that was yes, but of course all the priests went anyway. The more esoteric enlightenment you can get, the better. That's kind of the attitude, the priests have.
Absolutely. But what the Gnostic Mass really, really has is, technically it's the central ritual of the OTO, both public and private. And that chapter in the Book of Lies, what was described, the dynamics of this wonderful ninth degree secret. When Royce told Crowley what the secret was, scales dropped from Crowley's eyes. I mean, that was another epiphany moment.
Wow.
Crowley looked at that, and he put 2 and 2 together and went, wow, this is heavy. This is not just a technique of magic to bewitch your neighbor's cow or to bring you wealth, or even for you to gain illumination. This is the secret of creation itself, right down from subatomic particles, to the creation of galaxies. This is the big secret. Okay, and Crowley saw it as that, and it was like a lightning bolt, and he saw the potential in this particular magical technique that is a sexual magic technique, but he instantly recognized the infinite magical potential embodied in this. Literally, he'd found the Holy Grail.
And it must be noted, as I've read, that Crowley or in Thelema, you're not using magic for egoistic purposes, not to get a new car or seduce some girl.
Right.
It's all about the liberation of the soul, right?
Right.
So it's not magic as we know it or has been known.
Right. And this particular technique in particular is Crowley saw this is why humans incarnate. This is it really was big, and Crowley was blown away. And truthfully, from that day forward, this was the vehicle for everything that Crowley would do until the day he died. He instantly saw this wonderful potential in this, and the OTOs. It's nothing that should be secret because it is nasty or because it's illegal or fattening or anything else. The secret keeps itself, and the OTO's degree structure, as Crowley redesigned the OTO, is designed to open up the candidate, open up the initiate to the secret, not open up the secret to the initiate, because once it dawns on you what this is about, you literally see the secret revealed in everything that you see, and so it's a wonderful thing. It's truly big juju,
no kidding,
from a Crowley point of view, and it literally dominated his life from that moment forward.
And you're not high enough yet to have the secret, Lon? I know you say in your book you still got a few degrees.
As far as the OTO is concerned, yes, I'm a ninth degree in the OTO and have been for a number of years. But I believe the degrees that I'm referring to are those classic where do you live, Lon, on the tree of life? Okay, those AA or Golden Dawn-esque kind of degrees. And, I'm still conspicuously low on the tree of life.
You're in Malkuth. You're still in Malkuth.
I'm, right now, yes. I mean, I'm dangling my feet lower than that, so.
And also the other construct that it did was the Eleusinian Mysteries. Did he basically do the same thing as the Gnostic Mass? He just called it and then just decorate it the way he wanted it to be decorated?
Yes, exactly. His rites of Eleusis are Eleusinian in sort of just attitude.
Just put his own stuff.
Right. A number of years ago, because we've done all of a series of those rites of Eleusis for years, but we added one at the end that we called the Rite of Earth, which we sort of designed from Crowley's, various Crowley's writings and such, and it really did have something to do with Persephone and
and the rising of the changing of the seasons, right, and all that. It was closer to home.
Yeah.
And why do you think Crowley still is so popular and the OT is still very popular?
Crowley's more popular than he ever was in his life.
Indeed.
And it's more comfortable to view him here from the perspective of 21st century mystic, and where we can see him as the colorful archetypal character that he really was. I think if he was alive today, well, let's look at it this way. If I would have been a seeker in Crowley's time, I don't think I would have survived Crowley's personality. I don't think.
Really?
I'm not sure I would have liked him. He was terrible with people. He just messed with and had falling outs with the people that loved him the most. He was not a people person. But when you look at what is a prophet, And Crowley, first and foremost, he was a magician, yes. He was a poet, yes. He was a mystic, yes. But what he really was a prophet. And prophets are seldom likable people. Prophets don't need to be morally upright. They don't need to be polite. They don't need to even be clean.
Yeah, like in the Old Testament, and even the Bible says prophets are always hated in their own town. So even biblically, I guess he felt he was in the mold.
He was in the mold. But the criteria for a prophet is, number one, they're in the right place at the right time to observe a major change in the human condition, of human consciousness, of spiritual consciousness. Not only are they in the right place at the right time, they have the voice to describe what's going on, and they have the personality to tell everybody about it, even if it means the complete destruction of their personal lives. Now, who was it, Elijah or Elias? When kids came out and made fun of him because he was bald.
It was Elisha, he summoned the bears.
Had the bears come out. Now, you can say a lot of things about Crowley, but he never killed anybody. He never killed any kids for making fun of his haircut.
Right. I think you mentioned he killed a cat once when he was a kid.
Yeah, and he paid for a goat to be sacrificed once in the temple of Shiva in India. But tales of animal sacrifice, human sacrifice are completely incorrect. And as much as Crowley would like a lot of people to think that he was doing that stuff, he wasn't. And as a matter of fact, if you know enough about Crowley to know what he was into and what he was trying to do, you'd see that things like that would be a ridiculous thing for him to be involved in.
Right. And finally, didn't he die addicted to heroin?
Well, yes. Crowley throughout his life had drug problems, and his technique, in the Abbey of Thelema, he'd advertise for people to come get off of the heroin habit, and he did. People would come to Cefalù, and he'd get them off of the heroin habit by getting them on the cocaine habit.
Oh dear.
But you got to remember, first of all, these things were legal and experimental stages on things in his day. But Crowley had severe asthma, and Crowley would have probably died around the age of 55 or 60 had he not been prescribed the heroin. And so he didn't take it recreational. He took it when his lungs seized up. And I spoke with Grady McMurtry, who was with Crowley at the place where he actually died eventually in Hastings, and they were playing chess together. And all of a sudden, Crowley stopped breathing. His lungs seized up, and he had literally only enough time to get to his syringe and such, which was on the mantelpiece, and give himself an injection before he suffocated to death. So the heroin addiction was less a matter of his doing anything for recreational purposes or even a defect in moral character. His moral character was the way it was his whole life. I'm sorry, he didn't need heroin, to make him any different. But McMurtry described him getting up, and he tried to help him, and Crowley waved him off. And he very deliberately went to the mantelpiece and prepared his syringe, injected himself, and then he could take another breath. People that say that Crowley, died an early death as a raving lunatic drug addict, they're wrong on all accounts. Okay, he didn't die young. He died. He was 70. He was 72. His drug addiction was less drug addiction than it was his medicine that was prescribed him to prolong his life as long as it was. He was not a raving lunatic. As a matter of fact, he prepared in his last days his Book of Thoth and Magic Without Tears, two of his most brilliant and concise working. And Crowley's not what people have painted him, and he was. And that's sort of the paradox of his whole life.
And lastly, for people who might be interested in Thelema or OTO, what would you advise them to do? Is there any online websites, or should they look locally, or what's the?
Well, I would start, as with everything in life. I would start deliberately and cautiously. The OTO International and the OTO in the United States has a website, and the other Grand Lodges in Britain and Australia have websites. You just need to Google it. I think it's Google it right off the top of my head. It's OTO USAOTO.org or something like that. And but you can find the official websites, and you can go all around and find the whole history of the OTO. You can find the local body that's nearest you. You can find a whole list of texts and recommended reading and everything else. And if you feel uncomfortable, meeting people on this, you can do a whole lot on your own before you ever have to make a decision of whether you want to attend a Gnostic Mass or get involved. I've been in the OTO. I joined the OTO in 1975 when there were 6 living members.
Oh.
And now there are over 3,000 worldwide. That might not sound like very much, but it makes us the biggest occult or magical organization on the planet. And for me personally, the OTO has been a very, very important central part of my magical life. But for anybody, I have to caution, even though I love the OTO, and it's my family, it's my order, it's my holy order. But what I got out of the OTO is only what I put into it myself. And if anyone thinks that by joining an organization they're going to get illumination laid in their lap, someone's going to do the work for them, or if they just believe this or do that, they're going to gain illumination, they're wrong if they think that they're going to do that without doing the work themselves. So.
Well, I think that should do it, Lon. Thank you very much for being on. Enjoyed it a lot, and I see you've got a new book coming out, and we'll make sure to have you on as soon as get a chance to read it.
Very good, and people can contact me at my website, which is just lonmilo.com.
Good, and we'll make sure I post it too. Well,
okay.
Thank you very much, and we'll have you on soon.
Oh, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And there you have it, my beloved truth seekers. Lon Milo Duquette offering us a brief but concise bird-eyes view on Aleister Crowley. Or as some people might correct me, it should be Crowley. Of course, we cannot do justice to the beast in just one show, but we came close. And whether or not is Gnostic, I'll leave that up to you. Check out some of Lon's books if you want to dispel more falsehoods or understand more of the deeper truths about Crowley, Thelema, and sex magic. If you're still wet in the mouth for more of Aleister Crowley, I recommend Coffee, Cigarettes, and Gnosis 15, where we discover the eerie connection between Crowley, Jack Parsons, and L. Ron Hubbard, who looks like to have used thelema in some way in his building of Scientology. Also in Coffee, Cigarettes, and Gnosis number 16, Tobias Churton gives us some more data on Crowley that you might have not heard before, and he corrects me on the pronunciation as well. And to conclude, one thing that I need to point out is the issue of Gnosis. Sure, I bring it up a lot like it's some product you can order off the web or some infomercial. But the reality is that Gnosis just isn't learning about Gnosticism. That's the tip of Rosie O'Donnell's thighs. In perspective, Aristotle said that the Greek mysteries weren't something you learned, but something you underwent. It's that lesson that cannot be expressed. Most of us aren't as lucky as Socrates, who could go into mystic trance almost by will, or like Joseph Campbell, who when asked how he practiced spirituality, simply replied, "I underline books." Most of us have to find a way to attain Gnosis, and it's as personal as it is varied. There is certainly alchemical power in the Eucharist once you gain the right perspective. Eat a god and you will become a god. But to many of you that might seem too close to orthodoxy and the scars they left on your awareness. I can certainly tell you that Gnosis won't be found listening to this show, for I am but a psychopomp attempting to get you through the rivers of the Hylic, the dead materialists, to the shores of the psychic, those who have souls and perhaps spirits. Once you are there, you have to find the Gnosis yourself in practice. This can be done through meditation, inner contemplation, shamanistic rituals, intense prayer, calling out the divine names for hours, neo-mystery rites, and a whole plethora of ways. Nothing to learn really but undergo, as Aristotle said. Find what works for you and it will make you know the unknown, which is a characteristic of Gnosis. And then know that you'll only be able to present what you have found in the form of art, myth, or perhaps your growing aura. There are many paths, but they don't all lead to God. To the Gnostics, they lead past God into the stillness and rest of the pleroma. That's what we all really want in the end, stillness and rest. Like Donnie Darko, we just want that sigh of relief when the world ends, when we've broken through the wheel of karma and can truly look forward to so many wonderful things. But the job is not done yet. The redeemed must become the redeemer. Make sure you've written your gospel and lived your own myth, so that others may be illumined into following your path and eventually making their own. Search with those seeking the truth. Avoid those who have found it. Like Mary Magdalene says in the dialogue of the Savior, "There is but one saying I will speak to the Lord concerning the mystery of truth. In this have we taken our stand, and that to the cosmic are we transparent. Divided we stand, together we rise, for each one of us is a star." We are all stars, right, Aleister? I am, and I am Abraxas, broadcasting from the virtual Alexandria. The road is ended, the song is over, thought I'd have something more to say. But don't cultivate any troubles, my beloved truth seekers, because like heaven above you, the spy that loved you, I'm keeping all of your secrets safe with me tonight. Hello and goodbye as always.
Mr. Crowley, what went